There's a definite warning here, so if you do have these symptoms, please watch through to the end. My top symptoms were, number one, constant head pressure. Different than a headache. It almost felt like my head was really heavy. Like, the best I can describe it is if I were swimming in a chlorinated pool for several hours and you get that like yucky feeling in your head. I had ear pressure more on the right side, tinnitus, that ringing in your ears, dizziness, feeling off balance, like I was constantly running into walls, fatigue, but different than feeling tired. It was a very heavy fatigue, like someone put the wrong gasoline in a car, or just like someone was draining all the blood out of my body. Does that make sense to you? So it wasn't like, oh, I'm tired. It was like I felt like I was dying, like my energy, like my battery was drained. I had excessive thirst, constantly thirsty. No amount of water would take away the thirst. Very bad cognitive dysfunction, like difficulty thinking, especially when it came to any executive decision making, problem solving. I was getting lost on my way home. I needed a GPS for everything. Really extreme light sensitivity and sound sensitivity. I was wearing my sunglasses pretty much 24/7, whether I was outside or inside. I was wearing the noise canceling headsets. Like, any sound was almost just it was overwhelming. Much constant nausea, insomnia, difficulty sleeping. And then one of the worst symptoms is just feeling like I can't breathe. It literally feels like I'm drowning. Sometimes in the morning when I would wake up, it would feel like, oh my gosh, are all of the symptoms gone? And the moment like I sat up, they all came flooding back. And then as I stood up and the day progressed, symptoms became much worse. But here's the warning, these symptoms are almost identical to the list of symptoms for somebody that has POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And POTS often goes hand in hand in patients dealing with infections like Lyme disease, and now you're seeing it in patients with COVID or long COVID. I tested positive for Lyme disease, and then later on, the Mayo Clinic diagnosed me with POTS. The treatment for my POTS symptoms over the next couple of years never worked, and in fact, my symptoms only became much worse. Later, we would find out that the reason I wasn't getting any better is that my POTS was actually secondary to a cerebral spinal fluid leak. Please let me know what questions you have. There's a definite warning here, so if you do have these symptoms, please watch through to the end. My top symptoms were, number one, constant head pressure. Different than a headache. It almost felt like my head was really heavy. Like, the best I can describe it is if I were swimming in a chlorinated pool for several hours and you get that like yucky feeling in your head. I had ear pressure more on the right